I lived in Spain for 20 years, and I don't recognise that culture. But then again, I didn't spend myself in around football stadiums listening to Spanish fans chanting these sort of things. Now, if this is going on all the time, and it's going on at every single stadium, and Phil can speak to it because he's obviously watching Spanish football on a regular basis, then they're going to have to do something about it, aren't they? And clubs are going to have to start to be consequenced. It doesn't need UEFA to be involved. It needs Javier Tebas and La Liga to control the obligations that it has to insulate its players, to introduce or to ensure that protocols are followed, and that the imparting of the consistent societal message for football fans to behave inside a football stadium and to remove them. I mean, assuming that, Phil, there is a consequence for football fans. In England, as you will be aware, I'm sure, that there's a zero-tolerance policy. It only manifests itself in that scenario when people have done something and then you have to react to it, because obviously you can't do anything about it until it's done. But is there a similar mentality in Spanish football stadiums?
Well, the fan that was pointed out by Vinicius was removed from the stadium, and no doubt he'll be banned. I'm sitting here trying to think, where do we go from here? How do we try and make this situation better? And yeah, okay, you can fine clubs, you can remove individuals, you can do stadium bans. I don't think that is necessarily the key to understanding where we're at with this situation in this country. It needs to be deeper than that. There needs to be a societal change as to how people understand and be made aware of what is acceptable and what isn't acceptable. I'm looking through the papers today here in Spain, and a lot of people blame Vinicius. They think that he brings it on himself because of his antics, because he's abrasive, because he maybe winds up the players or the opponents or the crowds. There is a mindset that it's, if not okay, but it's understandable that he's racially abused because he winds people up. That needs to change. And that doesn't necessarily change with stadiums being closed and fines being handed out. That comes from genuinely deep-rooted societal change, being able to distinguish, hold on, he winds people up, okay, fine.
But Phil,
racism.
The player is not levying. We often have this debate in England about sport's obligation to change society, and I don't believe sport has a responsibility to change society. What it does do is have a responsibility to police itself properly. He's not just suggesting about society, he's talking about the construct of football. He's talking about the tolerance of it from the teams. The opposition, which is the opponents and the teams and their players and their officials, are condoning this and almost encouraging it. It's very strong stuff, and I'm, again, keen to hear from you on the ground what you think to that, because that's a player saying it isn't society, it's actually La Liga, the teams in it, the opponents I'm playing against, they're all for this culture.
Listen, I don't think players in La Liga on opposing sides or teams or opposing fans are necessarily for racially abusing Vinicius, but what a lot of people don't seem to understand is that it is not an acceptable way to vent your frustration. They think it's fair game. A lot of people think it's fair game, and obviously it isn't. So yeah, that needs to be policed. That needs to be. But what I'm saying is that isn't going to be eradicated by people getting fines. It's deeper than that. It takes years. Where we're at in the UK now, and a couple of years ago, there was a Man City fan who got a 3-year ban for doing a monkey gesture in a game at the Etihad. It happens. There is racism everywhere. But in the UK, there has been a shift in society. There has been more acceptance. There's been more understanding of what is and what isn't acceptable. And that here in Spain, we're behind on that. We are clearly behind.
Phil, just to ask the question, Phil. So this individual, appalling. To be honest, a player have to go through this, Jim, on a pitch. Monkey. It's just unbelievable what he's had to put up with.
And not for the first time.
So this guy was ejected from the ground. So what penalty will he serve?
We think he's been detained by local authorities. From what I've understood, two people were detained by local authorities. But presumably he'll get a stadium ban for a number of years. I don't think he's going to go to prison. But there were images outside of the stadium of hundreds and hundreds of Valencia fans, and a lot of them might not have been inside the stadium because I think they're the extreme right-wing ultras that might not have access to the stadium. But they were all singing, "Vinicius is a monkey." We're talking at least 100, maybe more. Lots of people singing this. And it's not the first time. We saw it outside Atletico Madrid Stadium as well. And it's just like I'm saying, it's a mentality whereby this is if not accepted, but it's understood that it's sort of fair game. He sort of brings it on himself. He sort of has it coming because of how he behaves, because of how he winds people up. And I mean, I'm repeating myself, but that's what's got to change.
Yes, I think there's almost a situation developing here, judging by what Thibaut Courtois, Real Madrid's goalkeeper, said post-match. The players might beat La Liga to doing something. Because Courtois says, now look, the referee said, I did the protocol here. This was a protocol of racism, and I carried it out. So Courtois is saying, okay, well, if the protocol is to continue playing, maybe we have to revise that protocol. In other words, the players might take it upon themselves. Do you know what? We've had enough. We're out of here.
Yeah. I think we were very close to that yesterday. I think we were very, very close. We've got a sense that they were right on the verge of walking off. Vinicius said that he did. Ancelotti said that Vinicius told him, I want to go off. And then they did continue to play. The protocol is stop the game, make an announcement on the PA system to stop making racist chants, and then if it continues, stop the play and try and make sure that doesn't happen again. And if that happens a third time, take everyone off. I think that protocol might need revisiting, and I think, the players might take it into their own hands. And we were very, very close to seeing that yesterday.
Does Vinicius Jr. want to stay with the club and stay in Spain?
Jim, I don't know. I think we're getting closer to a point where he will be reviewing his future here. He doesn't want to leave Real Madrid. He doesn't. But he doesn't want to suffer this constantly. And he's not going to back down. He is not going to back down. He's not going to stop the way he plays. He's not going to change his personality. He's not going to change his character, and nor should he have to. He's not backing down. This seems to be continuing. The more belligerent he might be on the pitch, the more people are going to abuse him, and it's a vicious circle, and I don't know how we get out of it, but it's all pretty sad.
It is sad. Phil, thank you very much indeed. Phil Kitcher-Miletus. I think the ball, Simon, is in Tebas's court.
It is, yeah. I'll be interested to see what obviously Tebas is being asked certain questions and we're getting snapshots of what he said, and he's suggesting that Vinicius Jr. needs to make himself available for things that he said he was going to make himself available when you're talking about anti-racism campaigns. I'm very concerned. This is not like the issues that we've had in this country where there's been a no acceptance from football clubs, no acceptance from players on the pitch, no acceptance from the structure of football that anything that vaguely resembles racism has anything other than the zero tolerance policy. What's being alleged here, and Phil is alluding to it as well, is that there was a tacit acceptance. It's priced into the equation. And I wonder, that means the players. Now, I'll be very interested to hear what is said to that allegation, because Vinicius Jr. hasn't missed. He hasn't said something and no one understands what he means. He's basically saying it's not just the fans, it's the entire structure of Spanish football is weighted against players that are black, and they're going to have to suffer abuse, and no one's doing anything about it. And in fact, it's been encouraged by the opponents, which means the players of opposition, which means the officials, and it means Javier Tebas. And that's quite strong stuff.
It is indeed. An extremely sad day